Do you mind if I record it?
Go for it.
Sweet, thank you. Alright, so I just have a few questions. I'm going to be writing down notes and showing you a few pictures. It's nothing specifically about that website, but it is focused on redesigning websites and studying on websites that you have to study on.
Alright, sounds good.
So how often do you study on your computer?
Fairly often, every day.
Every day, okay. And tell me about how you study on your computer. What topics do you like studying on it?
The classes I am currently taking and information about games I play.
Okay. And is there a specific topic that you prefer more just because of how it's stylized, or?
I like videos more than I like reading.
Videos,
They seem
okay.
to be more effective most of the time.
And how do you feel about like PDFs or websites, stuff like that?
They can be good, but often they do an information overload where they just throw too much information at once.
Okay. And is a PDF more of a culprit of that than a website, or what do you feel?
I would say PDFs are definitely have the potential of adding more information at once.
Okay. All right. And how distracted do you get while you're studying?
Depends.
Depends.
It depends what I'm studying, and if it's like a test or a lab or just reading, I get super distracted when I do reading. But if it's a quiz or lab, I'm generally pretty focused.
Okay. All right. And I'm assuming you get distracted by external sources when you're reading, right? Like,
yes.
Okay. How distracting do you find details on your actual study material, like graphs or diagrams or stuff like that? Do you ever get distracted by those?
Not really. They actually might help because they break up the uniform text.
Okay. I wish I could write faster. All right. So when you're studying, and I think I already know the answer to this one just looking at your computer. When you're studying, do you typically have more than one window open with your study materials, or?
Yes, I typically have more than one window.
Yes. And do you have them all visible at the same time?
Not all the windows, but generally I use my entire screens.
Okay.
Or the entirety of my screens.
All right. How useful would you find the table of contents for your study materials?
It's very helpful, especially if I have to return to it.
That actually comes up with the another question. How often do you have to backtrack in order to, when you're studying?
Depends on the topic, but generally fairly regularly.
Okay. All right. And how much does a poorly designed website affect your studies?
It's irritating because the links are broken or the information is inaccurate, or it's like...
How about just visually? If you have like a really ugly website, how much would that be bad for you?
Repeat the question, please.
If it was just like really ugly, would that have a huge effect on your studies?
As long as the information was clearly defined, I don't think it would impact it too much, but if it was like flashing or obnoxious or just ineffective, it would probably have a negative effect just because I wouldn't do it.
Okay. All right. So you already mentioned flashing and broken links and stuff.
Yes.
So are there any other elements that constitute a poorly designed website?
Poorly designed website. Well, it's just another aspect of a poorly designed website is just the clarity not being there, like jumping from topic to topic, not having the index, not having clearly defined segments, not really, or just using words, not using any other form of teaching.
Okay. All right. What features would you love to have on the website that you're studying on?
I would like video tutorials. I would like practice questions or labs. I would like an index which has all the information. and an overview which tells you what you're going to learn and how you're going to learn it. That would be nice.
All right, we're almost done.
Cute.
So, would you prefer having all the information just kind of out on the website for you to see, like graphs and diagrams and paragraphs of text all easily read and ready to see? Or would you prefer to be able to hide elements that you've already read or you still need to read, stuff like that?
I think it'd be put in segments. That way, once you've read a section, you can just move on to the next. Whereas it's still there if you need to go back to it.
Okay.
Because if it's just one big blurb, then it will be impossible to find anything.
So would you prefer it segmented by having it on different web pages, or would you like to be able to like hide graphs on the page that you're currently reading?
Probably on different web pages in the same website.
Okay. Pages. All right. How useful would a search function be?
Useful. It would be useful.
All right. Okay, and how often do you find yourself zooming in on a website?
Fairly often if the text is kind of small.
All right, and would that text you have up there be constituted as small?
Yeah, I would probably zoom in on this. It's probably around a size 8 or 9.
Okay.
I would probably zoom in to like 150, so it's this big. Make it a 12 or 14, because why strain your eyes?
All right. And I have a few pictures I'd like to show you. And would you prefer a minimalistic design for your website or a more fun design? So
Depends on the website, what it's trying to do. If it's an informational, probably minimalistic. If it's like selling, probably more fun.
yeah, so it's these websites that I'm going to show you are primarily designed around study. Most of them are designed around coding, though we do have one that is designed for more general stuff. So this is an example with the more fun designs.
The white one?
This one right here.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then this is another kind of fun design. And then we also have a couple of minimalistic ones, including that one right there. And then this one that is also a little more minimalistic. Which of these two groups would you prefer?
Probably this one. It has different variances, where the other ones are all kind of just either a line or too crazy.
Okay. So you're leaning more towards the minimalistic side.
Yeah, but it's not just lines and text. It also has some...
Yeah.
It breaks it up.
Okay. Perfect. That is all I had to yell about you about.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. Okay, so do you mind if I record this?
Oh no. Okay.
No one will see it besides me. And they might hear the audio, but yeah. I have 12 questions I need to go through. Some of them have like sub questions in them, and I have a couple pictures I'm going to need to show you as well.
Okay.
So I'm also just going to be taking notes real quick, so if I pause, it's because I'm writing stuff. Okay. So, how often do you study on a computer?
Every day.
Every day? Okay, and what topics do you prefer studying on there?
Whatever I'm taking classes on. So
Okay.
I mostly take classes on microbiology and a bit of chemistry, Spanish, German.
Is there any particular subject that does really well with their study materials online that you enjoy studying with?
One in particular?
Yeah. If not, that's fine as well. Okay.
No, not really.
So tell me about your study process on the computer. What formats do you like using?
YouTube videos sometimes are very nice.
Okay.
I like taking notes. It's faster to type than write sometimes.
Okay.
Google. Google is quite nice.
All right. And would you prefer studying off a PDF or a website, or it sounds like videos are your favorite?
Um, Videos are my favorite when I need something explained to me. But if I'm just memorizing things, then I would prefer written form.
Okay. All right. And how distracted do you get by things other than your study material?
Moderately distracted.
Moderately? Okay. And is that just because you get bored, or what
Yeah,
distracts you?
probably.
Okay. Is there any particular activity that you get distracted during more than others? Like, do you get more distracted while you're reading stuff, or watching videos, or memorizing stuff? When do you often find yourself getting more distracted?
Probably um when I'm reading stuff that I'm not interested in, probably.
Okay. And how often do you get distracted by your study materials? Like, do you ever get distracted by a fancy graph or some visual thing that's part of your studies?
Yeah, but I mean, that's not necessarily bad because it makes me look deeper into a specific topic, even though if it's not the one that I'm supposed to be looking at. But I don't think it's bad to branch out of the narrow study material.
Okay. All right. So when you are studying, do you normally have more than one window open and visible at the same time?
Heck yes, all the time, every time,
Okay. So like you're taking notes in one and
and
reading in the
reading in the
other.
other.
Okay. How useful would you find a table of contents for your study materials?
Um, I mean, if it's a book, definitely necessary. If it's online, somewhat necessary because online I typically just use the control F function to
Well, if
find what I'm
it's
looking for.
What if it's like a website spread out throughout multiple web pages, so you can't use Control F?
Oh, well then yeah, you definitely need to be organized into topics so that you can find what you're looking for.
Okay. How much would a poorly designed website affect your studying?
Very much.
Okay, and what would constitute a bad website?
If if it's really hard to find what I'm looking for, if the website is an eyesore, if um it explains things poorly, if it's hard to concentrate because it's got too much stuff going on, things like that.
Okay. Um, so what features would you love having on a website for studying?
Um, well, it's like I said, it's got to be organized, easy to find what I'm looking for. It's got to be the layout should be fairly simple so that it's easy to read. And then, I mean, pictures and graphs to break up the text. Um, but like not too busy, not too exciting,
Okay.
but a good color scheme.
Cool. All right. Um, so do you prefer having all the information laid out and ready to view? Just everything just kind of there, or would you prefer to be able to hide stuff that you're not focusing on?
I prefer all of it to be there, laid out.
Okay. All right. And how often do you need to backtrack in your studies?
Um, Not extremely often, but often enough that I mean, it's a normal thing that I do.
Okay. And you already mentioned the search function before. Would that be an important feature for you in your on a website that
Oh
you're
yeah,
studying on?
definitely.
Okay. All right. And how often do you find yourself zooming in on a web page?
Zooming in, making it
Mm-hmm.
bigger.
Yeah.
Never. Not
Okay.
unless it's by accident.
Let me show you a website real quick. As soon as I bring it up.
Not unless they have a really horrible small picture that I need to zoom in to see, which they usually don't.
So this website right here, would you end up zooming in on this?
Probably not.
No. Okay. All right. And then I have a few pictures on here that I need to show you real quick. Let me just bring them up. So overall, do you think you would prefer, and I'll show you some examples real quick, excuse me. Do you think you would prefer a more minimalistic or more fun designed website? Give me just a second so I can show you some examples. Okay, so this is an example of a more fun website along with this one here.
Mm-hmm.
Or would you prefer something more minimalistic like this one, which I just showed you, or this one?
I'd probably prefer the fun as long as it doesn't get too busy. You
Okay.
know, because that still looks professional because it's got like 3 or 4 colors and it's got the same font and everything. It doesn't have anything clashing or anything. So
All right.
something like that, but not unprofessionally fun.
And did you have an overall favorite between the four?
Mm, probably the second one is pretty good.
This one right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. That is all that I needed for today. Thank you for doing the
Yeah, no
thing.
problem.
Awesome. Okay. So I am redesigning a website for one of my classes. And so I just have some questions that I need to go over in order to kind of establish what people want it to look like. And this is a website for study. It's a college website. So it might not be super applicable to you, so we might just have to adjust some stuff a little bit and see what we get. Let me just pull up my questions here real quick. Okay, so how often do you study on a computer? In your case, it could also include like looking up the news or just in general trying to find information.
Every day.
Okay.
And remember that we do a lot of professional development courses at work, so
That's
definitely
true.
a lot of studying still.
Okay, very good. So how do you study on a computer? What do you like to do when you're studying?
Read, watch videos. I guess that's the only way to study on a computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Read and watch videos.
Okay.
Personally, I don't like reading on a computer. I prefer to have a book in my hand, but if you're going to study on a computer, then it's going to be reading or a video.
So would you prefer video over reading then? It sounds like.
I'd probably prefer both because I like to see the words visually while I'm listening to them. So I don't know, both.
Okay.
The thing with a video is that it's nice to listen to what you're learning, but if you're reading something, it's easy to go back and review something. But with a video, it's not easy to go back. So I like them both for different ways, different reasons.
Okay. And are there any topics in particular that you prefer studying on the computer as opposed to with a physical book?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
I mean, if you're learning something where it's good to be having a demonstration of it, then it's probably better online because then you can watch a video and see a demonstration. But if it's just purely academic, then I'd probably prefer a book, quite honestly.
Okay. Perfect. So how often do you get distracted by things other than your study materials when you study?
mm, well, if I'm committed to studying, I can focus in and not get distracted. But if I'm not committed to study, then I'm easily distracted by anything.
So if like it's kind of a boring topic, you'd get distracted, would you say?
Oh, if if I'm not consciously making myself zero in and stay focused, yeah, if it's a boring topic, definitely you're gonna get distracted really easy.
Okay. And how often do you get distracted by stuff inside your study materials? Like, let's say there was like an interesting chart or a graphic that could potentially be distracting. How often do you think you would get distracted by that?
If I read something that's particularly interesting or see something particularly interesting, then I guess you could say I'm going to get distracted by it, but distracted, I would say in a good way because you're giving it, it's something you're studying and you're giving it more thought and more time. But if you just, I don't typically get distracted by those things in a bad way if I'm focused in on my studying.
Okay. All right. So when you're studying, do you normally have more than one window open and visible at the same time?
Uh, I would say no. I mean, I would if I needed to, but typically, well, and sometimes when you're studying, there's a link to it, something else. So then I would open another window, but only if there's a need to, I guess I would say.
But would both those windows be visible at the same time?
Um, Probably not most of the time.
Okay. All right. And how useful would a table of contents for your study materials on a website be?
Very, very important because sometimes you want to go back and first of all, you want to see what you're going to be looking at. And second of all, it's nice if you can go back and go back easily. So if it's a table of contents that are links to take you to that particular place, that's awesome.
Okay. So that ties in with another question. How often do you need to backtrack when you're studying?
I don't know that I can put a number on it particularly, but I do like to backtrack when I'm studying. If I am really focused on what I'm reading and they mention something that refers me back to something else I talked about, but I don't particularly remember that, I'll always go back and look. It's the only way to study.
Okay, perfect. And how much do you think a poorly designed website would affect your studying?
It would get you really annoyed and frustrated, which is not very conducive to good studying.
Okay. And what constitutes a bad website?
Um, I guess if it's not very user friendly or if the links don't work properly or things like that, I guess. You can't find stuff easily. I would say those types of things.
Okay. So what would constitute a good website? What features would you love to have?
Easy to navigate with, like you mentioned, kind of a table of contents that you can click directly to where you're trying to go and everything works good. It's pleasing to look at. It's a text that's a size and a font that's easy to read and comfortable to look at and just things like that.
Okay.
Colors that I would say calming colors, but not colors that put you to sleep.
Okay. So that actually ties in with another question about font size. I'm going to share my screen here real quick. So on this website, would you find yourself zooming in, or do you think that is an appropriate font size?
For me, that's too small. Definitely.
Okay. All right. We're almost done. So on a website, would you prefer to have all the information laid out and available for you to view all at once, or would you prefer to be able to hide graphs or blocks of information that you've already read, or that you aren't focused on?
Yeah, I think that would be a nice feature. I wouldn't find that a problem. I don't think if I couldn't do that, but I think it would be a nice feature to have.
Okay. Okay, how important is a search function on a website?
Oh, that's nice, especially if you're trying, if you're trying to find something specific that you read and you're trying to get back to it, that would be nice to have a search function for sure.
Okay. So I have some pictures of websites I need to show you. And this is more focused on if you prefer kind of a more minimalistic website design or a funner website design. So let me share my screen again. So this is an example of a more fun website design. So I'm just going to ask you which of the two groups you prefer. This is also a more fun design here. And then here we have a more minimalistic one, which is the website I just showed you for the font size. And then we also have this one, which is a little more minimalistic. Which of those two groups did you prefer?
I actually preferred the first one. I didn't like the second one though,
This
because
one here?
that second one for me, yeah, that second one was getting too busy. But that first one, even though that's technically a fun one, to me it looks clearer than some of those minimalistic ones
Okay.
because it's got changes in fonts and font size and color, so it kind of focuses your eyes where it needs to go.
Okay. And would you say that this is your favorite one?
Yeah.
Okay.